I couldn't think of what to do today. Well, I could think of things I wanted to do, but then I couldn't be bothered. It's been too hot. My brain has melted. It's cooler now, and I can video without the fans being on, deafening me. So I thought, because I need to do this anyway, I'd show you how I go about taking a drawing from drawing on a piece of paper to plasticine model to paper pattern, or an approximation of that anyway. So this is the start of what became this little dude, and he's my little plushy seagull. So in the end I decided I was going to stick his little wings and his tail on and embroider his beak and everything, but the initial plan was we started with a little sketch and then this little plasticine dude, and then we covered him in cling film or thin plastic and tape, and then cut that off and make a pattern out of it. So I need, because don't we all, to design a dinosaur which will eventually be a bag, and I want a cute dinosaur, and I want him to have quite a big body, because if he's going to be a bag he obviously needs somewhere to put things. What about the angle of that head? So I'm going to do a sketch from the side, and because this needs to become a 3D object, not remain a cartoon, we're going to have to see what he looks like from the front as well. So little stubby legs, because we're going to be sewing this dude, so he needs to be quite simple. Let's make that a bit chunkier, and he'll need a tail. I'm just thinking about what's cute as well as what's practical. So this tail's quite good. I'd quite like him to have a longer neck than that, but that becomes a bit less practical when we're thinking about sewing. Just give him a slightly smaller head and longer neck. And I think we'll make his head a little bit smaller than that. Apologies if the camera's picking up my neighbour, she's being quite noisy. I could tell you what the discussion's about, but I don't speak Polish or Ukrainian. So my earwigging capacity is reduced. Let's not bend that leg back, let's just keep it nice and simple. He'll probably have little spikes like this down his body, but I won't put those on the maquette because we don't need them. We know how they're constructed, that's easy. But to show you what we will do when we make him into a bag is we're going to hide a D-ring here, and a D-ring here, and we'll hide the zip somewhere along here. And there'll probably be little spots on his bum, and he'll have little eyes, maybe a little smile. Happy little dinosaur. So, just turn this around, give us more space. From the front, I want quite a round body, and I want those legs quite close together underneath. So in the back of my mind I'm thinking about how we're constructing this pattern, how we're going to cut the fabric, and then next going to come up from about there, little blob for a head. I want him to look like that. And his little spikes will come down, his little eyes. We'll do one from the back as well. So from the back, big round butt, little legs. We'll make them come out a little bit. Maybe we'll have the legs at the back a little bit further out than the legs at the front. tail comes down. There's his neck and there's the back view of his head. So we're looking for this round shape. So we've got our little doodle. Let's stick him up over here so I can see him. And I've got some masking tape. I've got some tape that is really for mounting pictures, but it's fabric, so it's extremely sticky and it's quite flexible when you've got it stuck down. One blob of plasticine. Oh, that is still quite the workout on the hands. We'll make a bit of a sausage and see what we need for the body. This obviously isn't going to be the full size. I don't need to make a maquette the full size because once I've got a flat pattern I can scale it up. I think we want to save a bit more for the head. So, if the pattern is symmetrical, and it should be, then in theory you can just make half of the pattern and then flip it. That can highlight some inaccuracies, mind. So, but on the other hand, it does mean you don't have to get your plasticine maquette completely symmetrical. I will say that you need to be better at this than I am to get a 100% perfect pattern first time. It doesn't work like that. You need to make a pattern, make it small, sew it up, stuff it, see how it works, and then go back to your pattern and make tweaks from that, because it's never going to be absolutely bob on first time. So we've made a nice little egg, sort of an egg. He's a bit bumpy, but that's okay, that doesn't really matter. Is he about right? I'm going to call the slightly larger end the butt. And let's add on a neck. Actually, let's give him some feet first, because the neck's going to be the most fragile bit that's easy to damage. I might cop out and only do 2 feet here, because I've not got the hugest amount of plasticine. Bit of a failing that, I've got huge amounts of every other art material on the face of the earth. But in plasticine we are quite deficient. If you wanted to have several goes at taking a pattern off your maquette, you could make it out of something else. Plasticine is great because you can smush it up and start again. And if you leave it to go quite nice and cold, let's just see if that's too big or too small. Which way did I say was the bum? That was the bum with my fingernail in it. That leg is too big. Let's make that a bit smaller. Yeah, you could make your maquette out of foam clay, silk clay, something like that, if you wanted to. But you would have to be careful not to damage it when you take the pattern off. Although it would be quite robust, but I might do that for an absolute final. Because obviously as you're going at it with the scissors to get the tape and the plastic off, you're not gonna gouge it as much as you will with this. But this is the first iteration of this idea, so we're going with plasticine. Get that little leg stuck on there. How are we looking now? The pattern, the sketch decided it was going to be not swept forward, but more that way. How's everybody else cope with a heat wave? Have you all melted? It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be allowed. They're just down with this sort of thing. Somebody should stop it. I don't know. Anyway, I really struggle to talk and think of things to talk about whilst I'm trying to also make things. That's quite amazing because I can normally witter for Britain. Let's make a little back leg. Have we made it the same size as the front leg? No, we have not. I'd forgotten how much I dislike the feeling of plasticine as well. Yeah. Make a little cone shape. We all seeing that? I'm trying something very clever today. I'm trying to film with 2 cameras at once, so I've no idea if the other camera is picking up anything useful because it's my phone and I can't see it. So it could just be picking up the back of my hands and be absolutely unwatchable. We'll find out later. I could have switched itself off for all I know. That's still a little bit too big. Pinch a bit off the end of his foot. Ugh. Oh yeah, that's the bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. And I want that to... I want the front leg to be slightly in and the back leg to be slightly out, kind of thing. Make that a little bit pointier. Right. Because we need a lot of... Yeah, I can't make all 4 legs because we need a lot for the tail. The tail's quite chunky. I think that's roughly going to be tail shaped. So that's what we've got to play with for the neck and the head. Let's make a big fat sausage. Who doesn't like a big fat sausage? Don't answer that question. If anyone's wondering where the big haunted house build has gone, it's still happening. I just need to find the right angles to film it so that it's not just endless boring overhead shots. And I'm struggling with that a bit. Also, the base is quite daunting and the tree is even more daunting and the whole thing is going to be so big I actually don't know where I'm going to store it. But it is still happening. It has not been put in a doom box far, far away where no one can see it. That's approximately something like ish. I'll be honest, this is just because I fancy making plasticine dinosaurs today. And if you want to make a plasticine dinosaur, why not? They can't touch you for it. Keep looking back at my reference image, such as it is, to make sure we are still on track. I want that a bit shorter and fatter. Now, because this is just the maquette and it will be covered in tape and plastic and then hacked around with scissors, I don't need to get this perfect. This is not as if I was modelling with polymer clay and need to get rid of every finger mark and bump and piece of fluff and all that. I don't. So I think that bum needs to be a bit more rounded. It's a nice rounded rump. And I'm checking to see if he's kind of symmetrical, or if he would be if he had all of his parts. But I'm mostly trying to make sure that this side is exactly what I want. and the other side doesn't matter because he's symmetrical. The other thing you can do if you've got quite a complicated piece is once you've put it together, you can actually cut it up and make the pattern out of the individual pieces, as long as you know how you cut it up, so that you know how those pieces will go back together. But I might do that with his tail. With the seagull, I obviously didn't. I took his beak and his tail and his wings off and just made the pattern off of the body shape. There we go. Henry the half a dinosaur. So even though I'm sticking his tail on now, I might decide, I probably won't actually here, I don't think we need to, it's quite a simple shape, but I could take that off and pattern that out separately. But we need to make sure it touches the ground properly, or it looks weird. And also blends into his butt, because that sort of step there looks odd. And we couldn't recreate, well, you could recreate almost anything in fabric, but it would look weird. And I would like his sides to be one piece, and then to have a sort of gusset down the belly. So we roughly have a purple dinosaur. That's about right. That's what we've got on our piece of paper. That's now what we have in plasticine. I might make that tail a little bit shorter. That's a little bit excessive, given he's going to be a bag. And I want to just curve that down a little bit more. And I want it to come to a sort of ridge all the way along the back, which is going to be a bit difficult. Anyway, so now I'm looking at him from behind. I'm just trying to make sure that all of this side is as I want it. And there's nothing strange, and I'm going to do the same thing from the front. And he has squashed his own leg there a little bit. So are we looking good from the front? Yes, I think so. Now if I was making a model, say polymer clay sculpture, I would probably want his neck to come in here and then sweep out. But because this is going to be made in fabric, and his neck is going to be an integral part of the bag support, that reminds me that needs to come a bit further forward. I'm not going to make that as thin and elegant as I would otherwise, because we need that structure, and making thin tubes of fabric is not easy. Okay, I think I've got a nice kind of shape now. I've just boshed the end of his tail a bit. Just give that a little curve upwards. That's cute. Alright, now if I had a ruler, that would be grand, but I don't appear to have a ruler. I'm going to roughly mark where I think the centre line down this guy is, which is about here. And that's just for reference when I'm putting the tape and the plastic on. And like I say, I've brought that ridge off centre slightly. This is just rough, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to do the same thing down the front of the head and down the neck. And underneath. And along the bottom of the tail. Alright. Sticky hands, let's move that out of the way. Where's my roll of plastic pies? Ideally this would be cling film, but I can't find the cling film. Nor can the handsome assistant. So, look, thin plastic bag. You want the thin, filmy kind, and not the thick reusable shopping bag kind, really. Unless you were making a really big model, then that'd be fine. And this is just so that the tape has something to stick to, really. It's just... it's all stuck to me. I don't like being sticky. Don't like it. I am averse to sticky. So I'm going to wrap this guy, and I'm going to try and do it as neatly as I can. Because that's going to make life easier when I come to stick it down with tape and take it off. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, because the tape will make sure. What I don't want is lots and lots of bulk. So I'm just going to chop some bits out. And of course with cling film you have the advantage that it'll stick to itself. Whereas this doesn't really want to. This is sticking to my hands because I've got all that plasticine all over me. And I apologise, I keep forgetting and putting my entire massive arm in front of the camera. One day I might get good at this, but it does involve thinking about 37 things at once. So let's wrap him up and get him all covered. And now I need some tape. So the cheapest thing is this masking tape. Although, unfortunately, the masking tape I generally choose is the stuff with the lowest amount of stick possible. And really for this, you want the tape with a decent amount of stick to it. But we'll get there. Just sticking it down. And I want to get at least one solid layer of tape over this. Possibly two. So that it's holding everything in. And when I cut it off, it'll hold together. So the kind of masking tape that's got a bit of flex to it is better. But you don't want anything too heavy. So we're going to wrap it all around. If I get a huge amount of excess, I'll just snip it off. Because we don't need loads of bulk. Yeah. Get off. And the first few wraps, oops, let's just wrap that underneath instead of back on itself. The first few wraps of tape are literally to get that plastic to stay put and behave itself. This is great. I was so chuffed when I found how this is done. Because it really explained a few mysteries to me. I struggle to see a 3D object and then figure out how to flatten that out. I'm sure some people can do that really easily, but particularly when it comes to sewing patterns, I find that quite difficult. Oh, that's going to need a snip there. So anywhere where we're pulling tight at an angle like that, I want to snip. I don't want to deform the plasticine underneath. I need to make the plastic fit the shape and not the plasticine fit the plastic. This is where not having put on those other two legs really helps, as I'm not having to battle with those, because we're only making half the pattern. If I was working on a much larger thing, I might well make the whole thing. Oh no, that's stuck to itself. Let's get around his tail. And up his body. And then I'll be going around and filling in all the gaps until we've got a good solid layer. There's still plastic stuck to me. I thought there was an insect walking up my arm then. Ugh, no. I keep forgetting where the camera's pointed up to. Sorry. Do that. I might work with slightly shorter pieces of tape in a minute. Just get all this stuck down. Now I'm doing this, I'm thinking it might have been smarter to make it without the legs on it completely and then put the legs on, but kind of needed to know where the legs join the body really. I haven't sat and planned this out particularly, I've idly thought about it, and it's the other half, the handsome assistant, that wants to make a dragon bag, a dinosaur bag, because he makes bags, he makes brilliant bags in the shapes of bears and bats and bat bears and other such things. And I've decided he's making dinosaurs. Why not? So I'm going around with all the naked, non-taped parts. And I do want lots and lots of overlap, because when we cut it up, when we cut it off, I really don't want it to fall apart. Oh, I've got another bit down there. Why didn't you tell me I've got another bit down there? Tusk. So we're making our little dragon parcel. Not a dragon, it's not a dragon, it's a dinosaur. Bloody hell. I think in my head, my brain thinks that dinosaurs and dragons are of the same sort of thing. I do actually know the difference. I know that one is real and one is not. Obviously, dinosaurs are a massive hoax and dragons are real. Kidding, before anybody starts. I encourage any creationists to head my way. No, no, no. Dinosaurs were real. I've got a feeling that they don't believe in dragons either. Let us segue away from controversial beliefs of the human species. So, we're getting there. How much recording time I've got? Oh, loads. I can bore you for ages with this. Great. That seems to still be recording as well. I'm going to use a little bit of this. I'm a bit shy of using too much of this because it's not cheap. Also, it's a pain to use because you can't really tear it, which is the point. It's hinging tape for mounting pictures. Now, when I misuse expensive tapes, I now realise why my parents would go mental at me as a child for doing things like using expensive drafting film as tracing paper. Stealing father's letter set for childish projects. But they're my expensive things now, and I shall misuse them if I like. And you can't tell me not to. Nah. I want to use a bit of this on the head, because that's going to be quite a fiddly bit. I want to use several little pieces of this. And I'll do that on camera so that you can actually see. It's a bit of a bugger to get the backing off this stuff without folding it over and naffing it up. There's a bit for the head. And as I'm going through this, I'm now starting to think about where I'll be making the cuts, which means where will the seams be. I'm not thinking about it too much, but I am starting to be a little bit conscious of where they need to be. Oh, come on, where's the back? Come off, you bugger. I've got another piece of plastic stuck to me. Because when I cut, what I'll do when I've fully finished is I'll draw where I want to cut. Which is the other reason for being quite selective about which tape I use, because you do need to be able to draw on top of it. And where I'm cutting it is where the seams are going to be on the finished sewn object. So they need to be fairly sensible and logical. Let's go back to this. It's quite a sticky job, this, for somebody who doesn't really like sticky things. So I want to really reinforce the places where I know that I'm going to be cutting. I don't want them to drop in pieces. And I'm looking for any bits that I've missed as well. So there's a bit there. I'm also still trying really hard not to squash the plasticine inside. And if I wasn't doing this on camera, I would probably have made the model and then left it sit somewhere cool for a few hours so that it hardened up a bit more, and then come back to it and do this. I'm also trying to keep the pieces of tape flat, because the flatter they are, the easier this is going to be to draw on and get a decent pattern off of later. Another naked bit there. And it's just a matter of going through and covering up all the naked bits. Right, there's one. And trying to make sure there's a decent overlap. And this head is not sticking together. Maybe I should have used smaller pieces of tape. So that's a top tip for you. Smaller pieces of tape to account for the curves. I guess a lot of the youth of today would probably just use a 3D modelling program for this, but I neither have one, nor the inclination, nor the brain power to learn how to use one. So we won't be doing that. It looks like some sort of macabre dinosaur parcel. A dinosaur mummy that's had a terrible accident. Yeah, that definitely needs to be smaller. I'm not going straight over the top because that would give me lots of crinkles. We don't want any crinkles, really. I'm going to keep going around and around. Some crinkles are going to be unavoidable, of course. I'm trying to work with what the tape wants to do rather than completely against it. We're nearly there now. Pop and get the kettle on if you're bored. I know some people do the boring stuff and they have a story time, but I don't have any stories to tell you. Sorry. Come up with your own story. Go write me a story in the comments. Tell me what you're making or what you're trying to, planning, thinking about, playing with. I haven't been idle all this week. I have, well, I mean, I have been idle. I'm naturally quite idle. I've been playing with watercolour paint, learning how to mix my own separating and granulating colours for a video that I will make when some more goodies arrive from around the world. We're currently waiting on something that is either coming from Canada or China, I don't know. Something that is coming from Korea. So when those arrive, I will get to it. I have also got upcoming, been persuaded into buying some from Sheen, or Sheen, I don't know. I've bought some stuff from there to see. I mean, it's the same stuff that you're getting from Temu, we all used to get from Wish, and frequently from Amazon, so, but anyway. I went on Shein, never been on Shein before. I did try to go on Wish, I mean, it does still exist. But the search function is dire. You put your search term in and then it appears to randomly serve you whatever the heck it feels like serving you, which has little relevance to what you actually put in. So I don't understand that at all. But I can see why the sainted and much revered Ashen's plan of putting in a random word and then buying what it serves you works well, because the randomness of what you get when you put in a word has to be seen to be believed. But yeah, we're not doing that. Ashen's does it extremely well. Go and watch Ashen's. In fact, do that and then come back and I'll probably have finished wrapping this dinosaur. Who else can I shout out to? I'm really loving Dan does his witchcraft series. I think that is an absolutely fantastic idea. Larger channels giving smaller channels a shout out and a bit of a highlight. That's brilliant. If there is a way we can beat our mighty Lord algorithm, I'm all for it. Hopefully he'll spot my tiny channel eventually when there's something useful on there to spot, but not yet. We've a way to go, but that's fine because I'd like the channel to be monetized eventually, but it's not what I'm pushing for. I'm doing this stuff anyway. 90% of what I'm doing is stuff I would always be doing anyway. It's just now I'm letting you lot watch while I'm doing it, instead of doing it secretively all by myself. So I'd like there to be more subscribers and more viewers, but if we never get monetized, so be it. That's fine. I have proper jobs that earn the living, and this is mostly for funsies, but I think it's also to show that there are real human beings out there still making real art and real crafts and sharing and passing on real skills. The evil AI hasn't beaten us yet, nor will it. No. So if anybody wants to have a nice debate about AI in the comments, go for it. The engagement would do me the world of good. Tell me how you feel about the AI. The AI, I sound like an old person. Oh no, not the AI. Right, we are entirely covered. We can start the music, play past the parcel, and you win 5/8 of a plasticine dinosaur.